South Korea, NDV surveillance and vaccine development. Currently, Dr. Gaikwad is working as an assistant professor in College of Veterinary and Animal Sciences in Department of Animal Biotechnology. And his area of interest is Bayesian phylogeography of viruses. So Dr. Satish is going to deliver his...
Okay, yes, I'm audible, sir. So should I start? I'll share my screen, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As the previous speaker has told, that the never-ending thing. So another never-ending thing in our current generation is bioinformatics. Okay. When sir has communicated, I need to discuss some topics which I am doing and all, and it has to also fit with the current program. I have chosen a topic where I'll be discussing certain databases. I will see how people can access freely available bioinformatic data. And after that, I will be explaining two techniques, two softwares which I routinely use. So as sir has explained, my current interests are evolution of viruses. And as you know, currently we are seeing that can be a very interesting as well as a very important topic to look upon. So I'll be first discussing certain NCBI tools, and later we will proceed through. Around 1 year before, when some things were on, you must have come across some newspaper or some research publication. The thing was that Google, one of the sub company of Google, which is in UK, they published one paper called as AlphaFold, and they claimed that they have solved a 50 years grand challenge in biology. So what is this challenge is that proteins, which are essential to life, they basically do everything and all their functions, maybe through enzymes and supporting body through certain molecules. But the main thing here is the function of this protein depend on their structure. Okay. So this protein folding problem, they tried to solve through their unique artificial intelligence system. Just 2-3 weeks back, they have this AlphaFold 2 version of it, where you can simply upload protein of your interest and it will try to predict as good as currently available prediction models. So this kind of things, when they are going on, they are basically carried out through bioinformatics. So if you look into bioinformatics simply, it's a hybrid of biology and computer science. It can be, you can call it as a computer-aided biology. So it's the application of computers to the collection, archiving, organization, and analysis of biological data. And this data can have a very useful applications in genomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. So basically, you have a DNA. Through DNA, certain information is encoded in a mRNA, and from mRNA, you goes to the protein, and protein, which are the workhorses, and they encode another like similar metabolomic part can be there. So it keeps continuously changing. So when this change is there, you get a huge data sets. So you have a DNA molecules, you have RNA, you have their structures, you have protein families, you need to look into protein interactions, there are pathways, there is a system biology. On another side, you get a trove of data, that literature, gene expression study data, protein sequence data, protein structure data, and chemical entities. So in a very broad manner, you can divide bioinformatics to do these things. It can be a structural bioinformatics, drug designing, phylogenetics, which is basically my area of interest. Then there is a population genetics, ancestry prediction, TF bindings, site predictions, gene predictions, and RNA structure predictions. The best and most accessed data set which is available is we call it as a NCBI. So NCBI, you can type in following addresses and you can look into this too. NCBI, EBI, both are like sister sites, and along with the Japan data set, it makes 3. So each days, whatever nucleotide sequences are there, if you deposit in any of them, either NCBI, EBI, or a Japan data set, it gets used by all 3 data sets. At the end of the day, you have a common data set at all 3 locations. So these 2 are most common. So NCBI, that is the National Center for Biotechnology Information, it was created in 1988 as a part of National Library of Medicine at NIH. So basic mission of it was to establish public data sets, to develop software tools and education, to disseminate biomedical information. So we will look into core NCBI data sets and software tools here, and later on we will move ahead. So if you type NCBI NLM NHI.gov, you will get if you type it today, you will have a front page with some coronavirus genomics section. But the thing is that it will remain same. There are major resources. If you look into, you have all resources and data and software, DNA and RNA, and derived data sets. Means from DNA studies, you may have some secondary data sets which are available in single domain NCBI website. So you can go into PubMed, which is a common platform for looking into information, where you type some keywords, maybe by disease, maybe by certain author, maybe even period. You can screen and you can get your queries back, which are data analyzable. Means like you get XML queries, you can parse it through and you can get those data information. So basically what we are going to look is evolutionary relationships, because if you see today, as far as RNA viruses are concerned, you get certain virus has a what we call it as a duality. Means virus at a single point of time, it has to modify itself to give a fitness. Means it has to change to gain its fitness, and it has to maintain its identity also. Because for example, certain coronaviruses are there, it's RNA polymerase which codes for it's RNA polymerase which transcribes other genes and do that. It has certain molecular limitations, so certain areas cannot be changed, certain areas has to be conserved, and this conserve it goes through evolution plus change, and this can be studied with a evolutionary relationship. And when there are two, for example, in this study shown, we get a certain distance scales. There is a root you can assign to a particular tree. There are branches, there are nodes, there are branch lengths, and similarly you can assign where your target of interest is standing upon. For example, we study Newcastle disease virus, parvoviruses, and certain rabies viruses, and based on that we can look into two aspects. These two aspects is a space and time. Okay, so we do spatio-temporal studies. Means we look at a space, for example, a particular city, particular district, or particular country, and time. Maybe we go back into past since the beginning of virus and how virus has evolved through a particular period. Okay, so there are different the problem with the bioinformatics or creating phylogenetic trees is same. There are many ways of doing. There is way confusion is there. Certain people will have which way to use or which way to do things. It depends on the problem you are doing. So for my problem, maximum likelihood estimations, where I look at mutating viruses is sufficient. So I'll be discussing those parts. So maximum likelihood estimation basically required three elements. Tree, you need a model, and you need a observed data. Observed data can be alignment of sequences. For example, you have got some data, some samples from your clinics, and you're looking for whether this sample are positive for a certain way by doing a PCR. So you have a primer for certain genes, you're doing a PCR on it, and the amplicon, either you are cloning into a vector or directly you're sending for sequencing. And when you receive your Sanger sequence molecule or next generation sequence molecule, you are aligning these sequences with other related molecules, other DNA sequences, and based on that you are generating tree. And this tree, you are looking at its different models, and you're looking at estimating things, probability in a manner of a probability. So there are two key challenges remains for a given topology, which branch length make most appropriate this thing. and based on all the topologies, which is the best fit topology. So there are basically two approaches to do it. One is a frequentist approach, and another one is a Bayesian approach. So in a two, basically, if you look into two things, means like a mega software, which is like a combination of all frequentist approaches, phylogeny estimations. So this one software is there. We will go through it. I will try to show some data of mine, and based on internet connectivity as well as the speed of computation. If you look into all these data sources, computation resources are very high. For that also, we will look how you can minimize time resources, and how to do model testing, and how to do phylogeny testing, and how to visualize your work. That we will be looking into. That will be a mega software. And another platform will be a BEAST platform. So BEAST platform is a basically Bayesian estimation of ancestral tree structures. And in that, there are components of software like Beauty, Tracer, Tree Annotator. And based on that, which you can use for phylogeography, ancestor estimation. And the thing we do is a phylogeography. Phylogeography, for example, if you see at the beginning of pandemic, this coronavirus has started from a small city of Wuhan. If you look, we have around 3,600 kilometer distance by air in between this our place and that. So how virus has moved in between these places, either in a discrete manner or in a continuous manner, that we can study with the phylogeography. That I will try to show how to build a model, because of Bayesian phylogeography is a very vast topic. It needs its separate maybe a course, but I'll try to show what basically minimal requirement, how you have to define your own problem, and how to approach that problem, that we will discuss. Okay, so I did my postdoctorate in Seoul, South Korea, and this is a tree where we established different genotypes of a Newcastle disease virus. And based on that, we predicted certain the current at that time in 2015, what was the current genotypic assignment of Newcastle disease viruses in South Korean region. And based on that, purely with a maximum likelihood tree estimations, we proved that. Another work we did recently, in this is our work of 2020, where we worked with rabies viruses throughout India. And based on that work, we showed that rabies virus of Indian strains currently goes with lineage 1. And with that also, what we tried to show, we tried to see what has evolution, what has happened till 1950. So like we have gone into past, and what has movement of this virus with the what they call it as a, we have here, if you look into frequency statistics, you have confidence interval. But in case of Bayesian phylogeny or Bayesian statistics, you have HPDs, that's called as a highest posterior densities. So means how much confidence you have in between these two values. So likewise, what we have shown is similar work, means like we did with the parvovirus, where we specifically, I told you, we can look at two aspects, either space or time, and another aspect can be any discrete variable like host. If you look into coronavirus, we can look into host switching. For example, I like to specifically told, purely with the molecular data, if you go into past and see parvovirus, which is a canine parvovirus, it has switched. What if you go into literature and see at the late 80s, early 80s, you will see that canine parvovirus with the change in VP1 sequences, 3 amino acid substitution, it has switched into canine parvovirus. Okay, but what is the exact estimations of that time period? We showed it with the help of the most common rhesus ancestor, and with 95% HPD densities, we showed that the particular switch, it might have happened into in between 1974 to 1980. So Is screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I believe I'll just go to previous slide. I had a little network connectivity issues. I was discussing, we looked into rabies virus spatiotypolar dynamics in India, and we found that with very short, what we call it as a phylogenetically informative gene, you don't have to even look at a complete genome of a virus. With a partial informative genes, we estimated that viruses in India can be divided into certain lineages, and the current lineage is there is, if you look into rabies virus evolution, you get a dead end. Means like rabies viruses, they are very location specific, and that's what we again reiterated with our work. So this was another work where we showed with geographical as well as spatial distributions of canine parvoviruses, and we reported canine parvoviruses from Western India. They are basically of genotype 2A. Okay. This was the work. Another what we can achieve is like how switching is there. For example, I'll give you the example what has happened when I joined for my postdoc. There was one of the in routine surveillance from one of the lake. They isolated one Newcastle disease virus sample, and they wanted to see from where what is the origin of this virus. So if you look into geographical location of South Korea, you have North Korea at another site, there is a Japan, and there is a China. Okay, so among these three, what should be the probable origin? So you have to look into how viruses move. If you look into transformation, migration pathway of birds, these birds, they start from Siberia when the winter starts, and Siberia, then China, Mongolia, then both of Korea, then Japan, and the following path they go till Australia through our one of the entry points in India, which is like near Bangladesh. Some birds start migrate towards Bharatpur, another group it moves to New Zealand and Australia. So when this happens, these animals keep shedding their root, and estimating and understanding these roots can be of very, very useful to understanding evolution of virus. So in this work, we estimated with the 96% HPD, the location state posterior probability of that particular virus was exactly from China, and not for internal circulation or from Russia. So same genotype assignment, you are looking at a space and you are looking at a time at all three aspects. So okay, I'll just reduce this. So this was another work where we specifically showed the transmigration pattern of rabies virus in India. So if you look into, we had samples from Mumbai, Panji, Delhi, Chandigarh, Hyderabad, Chennai, and so we wanted to estimate migration of virus among city, because if you look into evolutionary theory, the origin of viruses, if assumed as a single and not multiple introductions, what you get is a particular patterns of evolution. Patterns what we estimated, if you look into location wise trait, you may assume that as Mumbai is closer to Panji, the relationship in these viruses may be more, but that's not true. You get a different statistical support for you get more support for Mumbai to Delhi transmission, Panji to Hyderabad transmission, and Delhi to Chennai transmission than other routes. So that questions us to find another pattern or whatever what has happened in the evolutionary migrations of these viruses. That gives us to study these patterns. So this work we published in virology journals like 6 months back. And so how we achieve this is because Bayesian estimations are very computationally intensive. You and Bayesian statistics, though started in like a 1700 century. Right now only it has gone lecture. One of the person has asked about Markov chain models and all. So similar chain, when we are running high number of chains, it takes computationally more and more time. So for that, this one resource is there, philo.org, where you can run all your beast models, which wherever which needs like a high computer clusters. You can use these resources and you can use this. So another virus research I use is Viper. It's very neatly organized as it is a secondary database. Simply you have to look into strains you are looking. For example, you have sequenced some X virus, and you can go into look and related virus you can download. You can go for sequence alignment and you can go for model testing, and you can proceed with the phylogeny estimations. Okay, so this is what we had. Now I will show you the Mega software, how it is basically a Mega software is a it is developed by one of the Indians, and what you have, it's a molecular evolutionary genetics and analysis program. So what you can do is you can have your nucleotide or protein data. You can align it via various models. Then you can look into for phylogeny with the various algorithms, maximum likelihood, test neighbor joining, or minimum evolution models. Okay, and then you can do another these things, ancestral estimation or rates. So recently I'm working on a Newcastle disease virus and all fusion gene evolution throughout the world. Okay, so I'm just looking at around 800 sequences, and that we can go for alignment. As it will take a huge time, I will simply remove a large portion of data from it, and I will just try to show how one can approach these problems. So, okay. Okay, I'll try with another data set which is reasonably small. Okay, yes. So basically, it's just a point and click, just like R, where you have to put commands and all. Here, you don't have to do that. This has already started saving data. Okay, so I'm looking for a new data set, and where I will be no DNA. Okay, so I'll be importing data from a sequence file, and where I can have okay, this is also a bigger data set. So if whichever data set you have to go for alignment tools. There are different algorithms. So for example, one of the faster and a recent algorithm is a muscle algorithm, which goes for alignment of tools. Most of the time, the default setting of whatever you have is should be sufficient for initial algorithms. And if you have some unique, based on your work, you can have this one. So this alignment has started, and based on alignment, all these sequences, because already some alignment has already I have concluded, you are finding certain gaps. And if you look into evolution of a fusion protein of a Newcastle disease virus, there are certain introductions into 112 to 117 region, and changes in that region are important as far as pathogenicity of Newcastle disease virus, which causes infection in a poultry, is important. So based on study of that region, you can estimate some evolutionary patterns among viruses. So when this step is completed, what you have to do, you have to look into what is the best fit model for nucleotide substitutions. So that is available at here. So here you have to go for best protein models. So for example, I will just go for same data where recombinations are removed, and I go for this, and where you'll find it's a protein coding data with the standard genetic code, and I'm using active data. And likewise, it will take some time, and based on that, it will take, you have to use the default parameters or certain modifications based on your this thing. And what you will get is nucleotide substitution models. Okay, I was here. And based on these models, you have to go for next step. Means first step, you have a data, suppose the sequences you have sequenced, or you can directly download sequences from NCBI gene sequences, and those you have aligned, you have trimmed the sequences. There are no non-informative information. For example, too much, when sequence submission happens, there are sometimes many yens are there. So no nucleotide information is available for those positions. Those positions you have to determine whether they may be phylogenetically informative or not, and those phylogenetic tests you can proceed with. So you can go for phylogenetic testing and maximum likelihood tree. Okay, some other pattern is still, analysis is going on. Just minimize it. Okay. Okay. So again, I will go to Mega. You can go for testing specific tree. Suppose this is the alignment you have put. It's a nucleotide sequences with missing data. We don't have to worry about an alignment gap, as well as it has been counted upon. Okay, so here is the and this how many number of bootstrap replications you are doing. Based on that, you have to move. So at the beginning, you can start with 100 number of bootstrap replications if your data set is small, and based on the bootstrap support you are getting at specific nodes. In one of the slide, I have showed you how to estimate that bootstrap support at the how to read bootstrap support at the node, and you can proceed with that. So okay. So you can start this analysis, and as I have simply put number of bootstrap replications 50, still it is a computationally intensive, and it is going to take a long time. So after this, a single tree will be generated, and that tree you can visualize with the one of the software, any tree visualization software. For example, here I'm looking into Fig Tree software. This Fig Tree software will specifically give you all the information, where you can encode all other parameters like a bootstrap support or genotype assignment, which is the branch. You can route your tree specifically. For example, here rabies virus, I have bootstrapped at the one of the sequence from USA, that is a sequences of Indian continent. If you look into Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nepal, they are coming together. That indicates certain geographical relevance to the rabies evolution. Same can be identified with the help of a means in other viruses also. You can look into this kind of inferences. So this is maximum likelihood T. So what you have to look into, you have to decide based on your research problem, your data set, how much lengthy or long data set you have. Then you have to go for alignment, whether DNA studies are better or protein studies are better, that you have to look as per your database. And if it is a DNA, you have to go for DNA substitution models. Those models you have to use while doing maximum likelihood inferences. And the tree you have got, you have to see those branches and nodes have sufficient bootstrap support. And if not, you can look into alternate models to observe these evolutionary patterns. So this is about a frequency strategy with the help of a maximum likelihood. So I will stop this program. A similar program called as a Eugene, which is a open source program that is also available. But Mega, it's more user friendly, and you can use it. So another pattern of maximum studying evolution is with the help of a Bayesian evolutionary statistics. So how I can remove this? Okay, so basically how one can study Bayesian evolution in a beast. There are multiple software, but one of the most developing as far as developers are concerned is the beast software. So beast software is a package of software. One has you can use it for multiple uses. Oh, what the sentence? Okay, I'll try to be a little slower. Okay, fine. So I believe we have what happens with the maximum likelihood studies is that you are looking at evolution or substitutions of nucleotides or amino acids at particular positions. And with that positions, you need to find support for substitutions. So we do that by aligning all the sequences first. Then we go them for model estimations, and those models we test it with the help of a bootstrap support. So bootstrap support is basically a statistical method where we are having permutation combination of same data, and this data is not happening randomly. That's what we are looking with the help of a bootstrap support. Higher the bootstrap support, more probability of these sequences being together. Okay. The second one is now I will go through Bayesian with slow. But what is there? What happens with Bayesian? You need to create a first file for estimating. You have a beauty software where you create a software file for analysis of MCMC. MCMC is a metropolis coupled chains. So these parameters you have to specifically assign, and this file you have to feed to the beast software. And when beast software will take it, it will go into MCMC coupling chains for a millions times or the number you have assigned, and you have to go for multiple chains so that you have some sort of a convergence in between multiple chains. So what does mean by basically convergence means what MCMC chain basically does is it proposes a move forward, and when that move forward is in alignment with the previous data, it keeps go on. So move forward, backward, it happens repeatedly like a million times, and a statistical significance of this moves can be observed with the help of another softwares. So this is the basically a premise behind a beast software. Okay, I'll just yeah. So what you have is with the help of a tracer software, you can analyze how much data convergence has happened in between your trees. Then you can go for tree annotator, like you will have around 10,000 trees as far as that, and you need to reduce it to single observable tree that happens in a fig tree, and that you can look into for phylogeny estimation, as ancestry construction, as well as phylogeography. Okay, so I'll just try to show like this is a beauty too, and it have different options. This all softwares are open source and they are freely available. Along with that, if you go into Beauty or Beast website, they will also give you tutorials based on what you want to do, whether it's a virus analysis or you are looking for species delimitation studies, where you are looking any study which involves nucleotide substitution. Even language studies can also be, evolution of languages can be done with the same studies. Okay, so what basically we do, whatever sequence we have aligned and we know model of it, we are going to add import alignment in it. Okay, so for example, this was one of the alignment file I have done. This is the rabies file, which I am looking at a 41 taxa, and the sequence is around 405 bases. So if you double click on this, you will get a properly aligned sequence with the studies. Okay, so I have around, I'm studying around 41 virus sequences. Okay, so next part, what my problem is, means what I'm trying to look into here, what is the spatial as well as temporal observation as far as certain N protein of a rabies virus is concerned. That's what I'm looking. You need to frame your problem first, then only you can look into. So here, what I have aligned some 41 N protein along with the whatever sequences I have done, and along with that, I have information. What information I have? From which time period I have isolated these sequences. So if you see, these are the sequences under my study. So from 2014, 16, 17, I have isolated these viruses from certain parts of India. All were sequences from Mumbai region of only, and all other I have related sequences from China, Israel, Iraq, Afghanistan, USA, all over world. Okay, so I'm simply trying to assign a date value. So tip date, it means that I need to know when specifically the virus has been sequenced. Okay, so if you look into, I have clearly obtained particular date, means year at which those sequence was analysis. If you see height wise, the latest sequence was from 2017, and the oldest one, if you look into, it was around 1984 or something like that, 1931. Okay, so I'm looking into past all sequences I have taken, and I can partition this sequence into multiples. So partitions, it means that what I'm looking, I told you first, I'm looking at time and space. So here I'll add another discrete trait. This discrete trait can be, for me, it can be a location. Okay, so this goes a location trait. Same, I have already encoded into that. I will simply take split on character. I hope it works. At and take first group. No, it has not worked, and I will take everything else. At okay, it has worked now. So if you see discrete character, I give information about from which location particular viruses of this 41 viruses I have isolated. So like South Korea, Pakistan, Israel, most of the Indian sequences, Pakistan and Nepal, which is our nearby locations. So I have this one. Imagine you have another study where you are also looking at a host. For example, rabies, it mostly affects dogs. But for example, viruses like Newcastle disease virus, it affects many species, including poultry. It's just not a disease of a poultry. All many birds it affects. So you can look into particular virus and its host. So same, you can add any character, discrete character, and you can tell it's from a particular this one. This is, we are looking at a discrete phylogeography. Okay, what is continuous phylogeography? If you have latitude, longitude information of particular sample, that you can add as a continuous geography. And in this continuous geography, you can go for measuring the movement per kilometer of a virus in certain outbreaks. So that's what happened in a continuous geography. So here we are just doing a discrete phylogeography. It means we are looking at a single location. Even the sample is from in this context, even the sample is from isolated from Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Pune. I am simply assigning all them single as a India. Even the sample is maybe from certain location of South Korea. I am Seoul or maybe some another city. I am simply assigning it as a South Korea. Likewise, but in case of a continuous phylogeography, you have to specifically notify latitude as well as longitude of this. Okay, so same it goes for site models, basically GTR models, BEAST models you can assign. These are more complex model than that of your maximum likelihood estimations. Okay, so here we will start. What happens with the Bayesian estimation? You need to have some preliminary data. So which model may be most suitable, and based on that you can build your next models. So for example, what is the molecular evolution? So Sticks clock is a very basic model. What is a Sticks clock? Basically, for all DNA sequences, for each position, the rate of evolution is same, is the assumption behind Sticks clock. And likewise, you have a different variants of these models where you can test, and then you have to assign certain priors, which whether you are doing certain birth date models, constant population, exponential population, what is the birth date SIR. So basically phylogeodynamics, in case of a current outbreak, people are using these kind of models to estimate what may be the trends or future trends of a outbreak. Those are studied with the BD SIR models likewise. So we will just keep it simple. Here comes the MCMC chain analysis. So what you are getting is how much you are running and how much analysis you are doing is encoded in this tab. So in this tab you are telling I need to have this much of length, and you can go log every 1,000 number of chain. You take that data and you put it certain way. Okay, so this, when beauty file is generated, you can save this file and you can move on to the next software that is called as a BEAST software. Okay, BEAST. Okay, so there is two variants of it. Means like a version first, which was there, and currently version 2, BEAST 2, it's very much in use because of the complexity as well as the modularity it allows. There are multiple ways of doing BEAST analysis as of now. Okay, why it has not started? BEAST. Okay. It's already there. Okay, just give me a second. Still I execute this, whether BEAST 1 also will work. No, I had only BEAST. So what basically this file does, this software does, it takes input from your this program, this Beauty2 program. This is called as a XML file, and XML file will be very much similar like this, where you have documents, rabies demo for training. You will have plain file like this, XML document, rabies alignment, and that file, when you feed to XML BEAST, what you will get output from it is the log files as well as tree files from these trees. Okay, and these trees, when you get, you need to prune these trees. So that happens through tree annotator program. There is certain issue with all BEAST pattern today. So what happens when you prune that tree? You get a single tree, and that single tree you can visualize with the help of a software like a fig tree. So any other visualization tree also will suffice. And I'm going to open that single tree which I had created. And if you see, this is the I showed you for phylogeny. So here, what we are looking at is how time and this has happened. So I'll just try to add up this tree to the legends. So you have attributes of a location. So all this location from this particular virus was assigned, and I will be coloring particular labels, node or branch labels with the sorry node labels with the help of, here I can show height of this thing. Okay, and then I can show color of these trees based on the location. Scale axis. So when you do this kind of studies, what you are getting is particular support in between these two values. You have to open that report XML file and you have to extract the specific value of it, and whatever report I have shown here, this. So you get a specific pattern of it. So likewise, you can design your own study, and you can create Bayesian maximum credibility tree, which shows evolution of a particular virus or a gene of virus. It's like based on your interest, you can go for speciation, you can go for a certain region and certain location. So this is regarding Bayesian phylogeography of viruses. So basically, this topic is a little bit different than what we call it as a data analytics and all, but still people who are related to veterinary public health, microbiology, or even non what we call it as a paraclinical subjects, they may have certain interest in the generating phylogenetic estimation, which are not frequency statistics, with the help of a Bayesian statistics, where support as well as interest in a community, scientific community, will be more, and this work you can push into higher impact publications. So means like this kind of activities you can carry out with the help of a Bayesian statistics. So resources you can use for this work, I don't know how to. Okay, so this is basically a Beast 2 website where you have tutorial where you can look into divergence of viruses, you can look into population, evolving populations, you can also look into population dynamics of particular virus, you can go for ancestral or discrete phylogeography, you can look into movement of a virus. For example, when somebody says foot and mouth disease virus moves at a certain speed, that can be estimated with the help of this kind of a analysis. Then there is a delimitation of species, divergence dating, phylodynamics, birth date models, SIR models, that can be achieved with the help of this thing. You just had one of the tutorial of R. All the data of Beast can be fed into R, and certain more interpretation can be achieved with the help of a R software also. So Beast 2 is there. So this is our work. It was published in 2021 February, where we estimated evolutionary analysis of a rabies virus using partial nucleoprotein and glycoprotein. This was our previous work in 19 we published it, where we showed in canine parvovirus of Indian is of CPV2A genotype, and the origin of this virus was something around 2012 for the local viruses, and we have also established complete purely based on a molecular clock analysis. We have told origin of a canine parvovirus is around 1969, which is very much in agreement with this one. I showed you this Cypress database where you don't have to worry about computational time. You can keep using this where they have high servers, like huge what we call the mainframe computers, and you can use their resources. This will be, if you see this Cyprus, by next year, it will be a paid model for all other people than USA. So this is like 1 year you have. If any data you have, you can use it freely available. So this another Viper database is there, virus pathogen resources, all strains and sequences as well as families, right from current coronaviruses, all data totally nicely annotated, where alignment and all you don't have to do on your computer, purely on browser you can do this type of analysis. So this was very introductory, and I have started some part and I have cut it off because computational resources required. I have started some alignment. It will take around 3 to 4 hours to complete it, and likewise I have to move ahead. So that's how I have cut that topic short and moved on to next topic. So that was my presentation as far as databases, or what we call it as how we use sequences to study things was there. So I believe I can take some queries. Percent similarity. Okay. How to check? I have two questions I'll be taking right away. That is how to check ancestral evolution, and second one was to decide percent similarity. Okay, so I'll just go to percent similarity first. This is a Mega S software, and you have alignment. For example, I'll just take just any random alignment I will take, and okay, I will go to rabies. Okay. So this, okay. So you have this set of sequences which is properly nicely aligned and all, and you want to use it for to estimate percent identity. So you can go for two things. One is a pairwise identity, and second one is a in between group. For example, you have lineages. I have shown you in case of a parvoviruses, you have lineage 1, lineage 2, lineage 3. For whatever virus you have or whatever study subject you have, if you are able to group them in something, you will be able to calculate the values below. But if you have not done that, you can simply go for computation of this one. And again, I have to go back, and I have to go rabies demo. I will go for this one. And here, okay. I believe this bootstrap support should be sufficient, and it should get completed at the faster. Here you got. So here is the, and here you see for your writing papers and all, you have captions ready. Number of base substitution, estimate of evolutionary divergence between sequences. So this one you get. Similarly, you can go for percent similarity. So evolutionary divergence is a better estimate than simply a percent similarity. So what here we have done is how each sequence is deviating than that of other sequences. So suppose if you have put simply here it is there, you simply group them as per as location of geography is concerned, you will get values from rabies viruses from India, rabies viruses from China. Likewise, you can create ancestral estimation. I will show you with the help of what I have shown here. So if you see this figure, when you are doing this kind of estimations, I will highlight it, the region we were interested in. And when we did this understudy model, we estimated the origin of all the Indian strains are very much local, and major introductions from are that are from Bangladesh or Pakistan. So what this give inference is that as far as viruses are concerned, so suppose I'm living in a very remote place like Parbani district, and when we do some analysis, the closest relatives we get are that are from either Orissa or likewise and while defending that it goes. So all these estimations or these studies we do in terms of a probability. Why? Because we don't know what has happened in between this region or in between that period. In future, if you do get a more sequences from other regions, you get more past some data set has come available. That time this all these studies will change. But as of today, all this science what we do is based on what data is available and how we are interpreting it, and it goes with the current understanding of this one. So if you see, all these sequences of lineage 1 have ancestral of this location where it goes back, like means you can look into past, and in mega also there is a ancestry. You can infer what is the ancestral location, so you can go for testing of this, and you can find out what is the ancestral sequence. So this was about. I will see any other question. Okay. Phylogenetic tree can be used. So which phylogenetic tree or method it's to be used? You have to see what question you are asking. For example, I ask how much whether vaccines, if for example parvovirus, we had a question whether current parvovirus vaccines are working or not. So for that we went into field, we collected samples, and we found out that a sample and a vaccine, they do not have much changes. So what does it mean? That current viruses, the practice of vaccination, or we may what we call it as a vaccine breakthroughs are not happening. It may be purely a cases of where there is a correct vaccine, we are not correct, what I call it as a, maybe cold chain is not maintained, or there are other reasons than that of a vaccine composition is concerned. So that may be there. Each maximum likelihood, each have unique algorithm behind it. And what people do is they look for previous. If you are simply looking for any estimations, each will have different tree topologies. And when you are reporting it, if you are looking into all three, like maximum likelihood you are doing, or neighborhood joining is very less computationality, it doesn't take much time. But tree topology you get from it is not that as confidence interval as that of a maximum likelihood. Likewise there, if you are using multiple methods, even you can go for same tree under maximum likelihood as well as Bayesian phylogeny, and whichever you get among two best topology, there are tree topology tests comes, and based out of that you can report the one which is one. I'll recommend you another paper, PPR. If you just search PPR virus, like last 2 years, one of the paper from GVPPS, Ravi Kumar sir, who is a IVRI scientist, he has reported tree topologies which are the best for PPR virus. That paper you can take as a backbone to decide on which phylogenetic tree you can use. So I have answered most of the queries. It was little fast because I started little late and I had to cover within a given time. So I believe this lecture is helpful. I request organizers to proceed.
Yes, yes, sir.
And,
Yes, sir.
yeah, my number or anything, email